But
it's all got to mesh perfectly together, or it's just it loses you in too many different ways. I want to say something about, the part with Grogu and Luke, and I'm going to put the ball here, and I'll put the samurai sword here, and you need to choose the path that you're going to take. That's straight out of Lone Wolf and Cub. And I saw that in there. I was like, oh my God, somebody here knows the Lone Wolf and Cub stories, because when the samurai decided he was going to get even with the people who had killed his family, and it was only him and his son, he was going to kill his son. He said, if I can't protect you. If you're going to go with me, you need to become of the way of the sword and of violence. If you choose the ball, then you're a pure soul, and I'm going to send you to heaven so that your soul stays pure. And that was that moment, right, with Grogu, and I was like, why the hell did you do that? It is beautiful. I love it, but Luke would never have done that.
well,
Luke would have said, go ahead and go. I mean, I can't wait to see Grogu walking around his little chainmail with his Mandalorian helmet with the two spikes sticking out of his ear like an armored Yoda.
All right, everyone. Welcome to That Little Podcast, episode 29. This week, we will be discussing our thoughts and everything from the book of Boba Fett, our expectations going into episode 7, which is going to be the final episode of this series, of the season. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Today, I'm joined by David, of course.
Hey.
My dad.
Howdy.
And for the first time, my cousin Dallas.
Hey.
All right. Dallas, you want to, give a little introduction about yourself and
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm Vince's little cousin. Big Vince is here's little brother's first son. I know this is Dad Level Podcast. I can promise my first child to the podcast gods, but I don't have any children of my own. I do have a pup. That's it for now. Been watching the pot. What's that?
A fur baby.
Yeah, I have a fur baby. Exactly. I'm excited to be here. This is my first time on a podcast, and so I'm pretty excited. Sure. Well, I can start by saying that we have got to get you and your brother on here for a chat. I don't know if you guys realize how viral your stories would go. It would immensely help this channel with popularity and the crazy stories that you guys have. So
I don't know about that. We might, I don't know what's the statute of limitation on some of the stuff we used to get away with.
Yeah.
But
I
do miss him. Yeah, I would love to get him on here.
Yeah. He misses you too. He was over here recently. A couple of nights ago, we had dinner, and he was asking if I had talked to you guys and seeing how you were doing. And he's been asking about you. So you guys should definitely link up soon.
Okay. Yeah, let him know I'm still swinging.
What I'll do is
drag me out of here kicking and screaming.
I'll get the four amigos on here. My dad, my Uncle Mike, Uncle Colin, Uncle Randy all together again, and see how things go with that one.
The world is not ready.
It's not ready. Yep. So, how's work going?
For me?
Yeah.
It's great. I'm working. I just started a new job back in August, working for a custom home builder. Also with that, I coach in the evenings a high school varsity lacrosse team.
Oh, of course.
And then, hey, we're pretty good.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Just the politics of the situation in our community, we didn't feel like we had really a support from a youth program. So 2 years ago, we started our own youth program, and that has developed into, it's got 60 kids in it, and it's really growing, and it's been exciting. So I think I live vicariously through you guys and all the games that you get to play and all the shows that you get to watch. I spend all my time and I just hear about it from you guys, get updates from you guys. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, but you're doing the exciting stuff. Doing the youth stuff. I can remember when I was younger and helped with little league baseball and stuff like that. I enjoyed that so much, and the fact that my brother was coaching, and every time I saw you were turning around and going to a lacrosse game. It's hard for us to get together. So, it's similar. Vince used to be in fencing, so we were, and so was Ember, and we were always going to fencing tournaments.
And David,
of course. How could I forget David? And then I've been ashamed of David and Josh because they don't do it anymore, and they had an opportunity to be teachers themselves.
I'll say it's very rewarding being in the youth community and having all these families working together and seeing them out. We'll see, a group of them that they didn't know each other before we introduced them, and now they're out vacationing together, and we see them, across the state doing something fun together. So it's cool to be, build a community and see it thrive. So
since this is a family thing, and I haven't met or heard your lovely wife. Is your better half fiance? Well,
yeah, November. You guys should be expecting.
I'll have to ride. Hopefully, I'll have to
go get him.
They don't let me drive long distances very much anymore.
We'll get you an Uber or a private jet.
Just get the rail done, and I can be in Houston in 45 minutes and visit people and can come home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why we can't get that done.
Yeah, there's a lot of grumpy old folks that hold all the land that don't want it to happen.
Don't want it to happen. Yeah.
That's why you elevated over their houses and stuff.
Yeah.
Sky rail
or you throw a couple $1 million at them, and everybody has a price, right?
Oh, the other day I was was walking through the back of the house. I was like, I wish I could teleport, because Amber was like, do you think you can drive up and visit this weekend? Because they've all been sick with COVID. Mm-hmm. And I miss the grandkids. They miss me. And sometimes when you see somebody in a video chat, it makes you miss them that much more. It's nice to hear their voice and see them, but it's nothing like being in a room with them. Yeah. And so I was walking, I was like, man, if we could just get that teleportation right. And as I took 2 steps, the first thing that popped in my mind was, help me. I'd end up with a fly in the thing, or worse yet, a cockroach or something else. And so, no, I think I won't do that. I'm going to take the Dr. McCoy route, and I'm not going to teleport.
Or a callback to previous episodes, where Adrian wants to be a shark, a man shark.
Oh, yeah, he wants to use it to become a street shark.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny because you're doing this stuff with the community, and Anna's been doing that here for our neighborhood and everything for the whole Northline area. And they're wanting to either start up a Boy Scout program or some kind of youth program, and they've been trying to tap me into doing it. Well, I'd love to do it. So it'd be really good. So a lot of people in this area need stuff to be able to.
If I can be a Girl Scout leader, you can be a Boy Scout leader. And remember that. I had a daughter, and I got roped into being a pseudo girls.
He got roped in. He did it for the Thin Mints. That's what
I did do that. We did a lot of cookie sales and driving around and hanging out in front of Walmarts. But we did a lot, and the woman who was the actual person over it, she was a great lady, and I loved her daughters. And she passed away, and it kind of all fell apart, and you found out that she was really the anchor that had held all that together. And it was a great time, and it was a sad time, at the same time. Man, that's depressing. You can edit that out, right? I'm joking.
But it is what it is. Life progresses, and we get older and grayer, and we just make new experiences and meet new people. And that's part of life's journey. So as in, the creed of the Mandalorian. This is the way.
This is the way. So,
So-
David, what have you done for the community?
I have kept my children in check.
That works. Because your son will one day take over the world. I'm telling you that. I see a future master of the universe there.
If I can just get him to get off of his ass and get motivated, yeah, it would be a little terrifying what he could actually accomplish if he would just, try. But it just he's like me. It's like school is what it is. It's not really something that you look forward to or really throw yourself into doing. And once he finds his niche, right, they'll take off. He's been slowly growing, bit by bit, especially being in high school. And I think I've mentioned a couple of times, right, him like getting into marching band and him going to like a leadership camp and all these other different things. It's really been kind of broadening his horizons a little bit, helping him to break out of his shell and really extend. And then on the other side with my daughter, she hasn't met a single person that's not her friend, right? She gets all that from her mother. She can absolutely talk to everybody. So I don't know how that's going to morph as she gets older, but it mildly terrifies me somewhat. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, you still have some time before she starts dating. That's when your life is over.
Oh yeah. Oh, every little boy that she talks about from her school, she always knows the first question that's coming out of me is always, "Does the little boy have a job yet? Daddy, he's only 7. I'm like, I don't care. This little boy needs to get a job.
Have you had him fill out the credit app yet?
Got to know the priorities, man.
There you go.
Job first, money, then dating.
Priorities, man. You got to get them right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember your Uncle Gene. He wanted, if he'd had a girl, he said he was going to buy 2 Dobermans, and he was going to meet every boyfriend with a shotgun in his hand. And if they could stand there for 5 minutes to talk with him, he'd go, "All right, you can go out." But he said most of the time they'll probably run off. And I said, "Yeah, probably."
You sure would.
But that was I miss his homegrown, homespun philosophies on life and how to handle situations.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of uncles, my dad claims that all of his hair went as soon as Jordan was born, and I imagine he is very jealous of your luscious locks that you have there.
Well, your dad had always had that little spot that was thinning, and he would work to hide that. And I was like, "Well, you're going to have a natural yarmulke, when you get older." And he he's also been the handsomest guy out of the family. You could line all us brothers up, and the girls would go right to him. So he has nothing to complain about.
Yeah.
Now we've all got a chance, and he's
just paying his dues. That's all.
Yeah. Look at you, man. Y'all all make, every time I see you, Ryan, or Tyler, I see AJ every now and then if he sends me a picture. I haven't seen very much of Jordan, but y'all have all grown so much. I'm so proud of y'all. Every time I see y'all, it's like, man, they all turned out great. So
yeah, you guys need to come down and stay with us a couple of days. Vince, we wanted to have his whole family over for Christmas, and the other side of the family was just so indecisive about if they were going to come or what time they were going to come that it just didn't work out. But we've definitely got to do that at some point.
Definitely.
Little reunion.
Mm-hmm. We need to have like Thanksgivings again and all that stuff.
For sure.
I'll volunteer to cook part of it.
if I ever win the lottery, I'll build my mead hall, and then y'all can all just we can have family reunions at the mead hall in front of the hearth. And
you just got to.
That's been my dream, was a mead hall and a hotel that looked like an inn from that period. I wanted to build.
Are kilts required, or?
Well, underwear would be required.
Okay.
But
would you at night have someone dress up as a giant monster and come in and pretend to eat some of the guests?
eat some of the guests,
Oh,
yeah, and we
that
could
would
do
be
the whole Grindel. Tonight is the Grindel reenactment. But I wanted to build almost a keep kind of hotel there close to Renfest and turn it into a year-round event instead of just seasonal, because I actually think it could become something if the right attention and money were applied to it.
Yeah, you've always had an entrepreneurial mind. I probably got it from you. Didn't get it from my dad, so I'll give you credit for that.
I'll take it.
Yeah, we just gotta strive for those moments where we can achieve what we want, because a lot of times we just kind of tend to like standoffish, not wanting to go for things, and then all the voices in your head or your friends are like, no, this will never work. But it's like you just got to push through and continue moving forward.
Yeah.
If you don't try, you'll never know. And if you fail, you take the lessons you learn from that failure and you apply it the next time around. I worked with a gentleman, his name was George Shoppa, and he had been a millionaire 3 times and had successful businesses. And all 3 times he eventually went bankrupt. And he was like, I'm just waiting. I was like, what are you doing working here? We were working for a software company, and he was like, I'm just biding my time until I figure out the next thing I want to do. And if you're out there, George, and you happen to watch this, thinking about you, bud.
You can invest in the podcast. I can use definitely better equipment, maybe an editor.
Oh, real quick. So you talking about someone sitting on the front porch guarding their daughter with a shotgun reminded me of a funny joke I heard a while back. About a farmer that had 3 daughters. Have you heard this one? And
there's different variations of it.
Yes, probably.
He was worried about his daughters going on dates. So there was one night where all 3 of them had dates coming over, and the first boy showed up, knocked on the door. Dad came out with a shotgun. And he said, "Hello, sir. My name's Joe. I'm here for Flo. We're gonna go see a show. Is she ready to go?" And he looked the boy up and down, thought, this kid seems all right. And he let his daughter go off, right? Next kid shows up. And he's like, "Hello, sir. My name's Eddie. I'm looking for Betty. Or we're going to go get spaghetti. Is she ready?" Farmer looked him up and down, thought, this boy's all right. I let his daughter go. The third guy comes up, knocks on the door. Farmer again answers. The man says, "Hello, sir. My name's Chuck." And he shot him.
You got my dad going there.
Very good. Okay, so Book of Fett. I have been stoked.
Well, hold on just a second.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Are you going to insert the opening, or are we
the transition?
going? Yeah.
So since it's already started, let's go ahead and go into the Book of Boba Fett. And what we'll start this out with is this last episode and how amazing it was, the cameos of things that we saw. I mean, this one even almost threw me back to more of EU Star Wars than, I mean, it's almost as good as Luke showing up for me, at least for me, in my personal opinion. But let's go ahead and go into it. So Dallas, go ahead and
I don't want to be the first one to go. I'll let David. David sets the tone, and I will help.
Oh, well. So are we gonna talk about Boba Fett, or are we gonna talk about the 2 episodes that were the Mandalorian season 3
with the cameo of Boba Fett?
because yeah, no, I agree. The first 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 3 have been great, right? Like all this stuff with the Darksaber, Din Djarin. I mean, I know people have been complaining on the internet about it, but I mean, it legitimately is like 2 whole episodes where they just carved out a section of Boba Fett, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't need you anymore. Oh, hey, we're gonna have you show up in this one episode for like 2 seconds. You're not gonna say 2 words, and we're gonna go about our way." And it's almost telling that those have been the 2 best episodes of the entire series, because honestly, those first 4 episodes, it felt like they didn't know where they wanted to go, right? Like the first episode was just Boba Fett getting his ass beat the whole episode. And then the second episode, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, this makes sense. This feels like Boba. He's going out, he's being awesome, he's taking down fools, he's doing all this good stuff. And then the third episode happened, and we had a weird. I think the thing it's been struggling with me is I don't know who he's against, right? It's like, okay, he's against the mayor. Oh no, he's not against the mayor. He's against the Fets. I'm sorry, the Hutts. And then the very next episode, it's not the Hutts anymore. It's back to the mayor. And then it's not the mayor anymore. It's the weird fish people that literally just showed up.
The Syndicate.
No, the Syndicate's been around.
Yeah, the
If
Syndicate's
you've
been
read
around
any
for a
of the
while, yeah.
books, see, they're pulling material from the expanded universe here.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between the people who understand and have read the expanded universe, played some of the games and things like that,
I know.
and only those people who've seen the movies. And so if you've seen the movies, you were disappointed. And if you or into the other expanded universe material, then you kind of can play along. It's not exactly the same, but it's enough to draw older fans back into the story. Now,
I'm just excited that we have a Dune crossover now. Because
the spice.
yeah,
Right.
because Arrakis
talking
used
about
to
the
be a water
spice.
planet. Yeah, and the spice
Yeah.
spice has always been a part of Star Wars, dude. What do you think he was smuggling when he did the Kessel Run?
Right, but I didn't realize that it was legitimately the like whenever Oliphant kicks over the box and it looks like
It's
he just kicked
spice.
over a
It
big
looks
old
like
thing of
spice, yeah.
cinnamon, right?
Hey,
Because that's
he-
what we do. It's basically just cinnamon, right? So pumpkin spice is what fuels psychics and
That's
gives
right.
us travel through hyperspace. So that's what threw me off. I was like, wait, I have all the basic white ladies out there that have been going to Starbucks all these years. Are they the ones who have known the secret all this time? Is that where all
Well,
of
you
our
can't fold
wives and
space
girlfriends
without the
and all that
spice.
get their spidey sense, get their eyes in the backs of their head? It's actually all the spice they're ingesting.
Yes,
Gotta
it's
do
the
it.
spice. Yeah.
Remember, you can really
Gotta
tell
be.
if they have blue eyes.
Why do you think they call it Spice Girls?
There you go.
But getting back to the first few episodes, those were from Robert Rodriguez. And Robert Rodriguez, I love his storytelling. He is, but he is not going to get to continue the story that he was kind of working out with Filoni and them.
Yeah.
Disney is letting him go. This last episode will be his last. It's interesting to know that Book of Boba Fett was supposed to be much longer than it is
Yeah.
now. And so because the first few episodes didn't hit it off with viewers, they've truncated it and they're now moving some of the elements over into the second one and into the Mandalorian 3. So everything is getting pushed out and expanded. We're gonna see other tie-ins with Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and all these other stories. So you can't give everybody everything at once if you're going to make an expanded universe, all-encompassing universe, and which is what they're trying to do with this. I happen to like them showing the Sand People, showing their culture and what was going on there, because up until then, unless you've read the books, the only thing we knew about them was they were people who sniped and killed everybody, raided. They were the Indians of Tatooine. And they had, and like in the American Native Indian, they had their own culture, and there were a lot of great things, and we have a twisted view of what they were. And he was trying to change that. If you remember, Fett first survived the Sarlacc in the novels and the comic, and he could be walking around in bandages for years like he did in those, while he hunted down who had stolen, his armor and was stolen his name, because there was another person who was pretending to be him.
Jodo Task.
And so we're getting the best of both worlds here. And I just don't think people understand that yet. And because, like with everything else, like everybody who's gotten mad about what Marvel did, the Eternals was horrible. And the Eternals was to set up the cosmic portion that's coming now into the Marvel Universe. It was a setup movie, and that's kind of what this series was, to set up the groundwork, because the criminal underground has played a big role in Star Wars all along. And then you have the ones on the outskirts, and you have the ones in the lower levels of Coruscant. Is that what it is?
Mhm.
It's
Yep, Coruscant.
And we're going to get to explore all of that, you know. So all I can say is sit back and enjoy the ride for a little bit.
Yeah, because you have the Crimson Dawn, and then the
Crimson Dawn. There was
the
more than
Black
that.
Sun.
Don't get me started naming them. I can't remember.
So, but you know what? I'll let Dallas go ahead and give your thoughts and stuff. I don't want to go too deep into lore.
I think I'd like to pose some questions to you guys and see what you think. First of all, do you like the new direction that they're taking with this type of storytelling? There's definitely like a stark contrast between the beginning of this show and the second part of this show. They're really trying to set up this universe, as you alluded to. Do you like that? I feel like there's more depth to these characters than there was in the previous trilogy. I wasn't very attached to Kylo Ren. I wasn't very attached to Rey.
Don't get me started on Kathleen Kennedy and what she wanted to do.
I didn't feel like they were particularly. It was a good story if you were to write it out a storyboard, but it didn't. The characters didn't have depth, so you weren't attached to them. So do you appreciate where it's going now versus?
I do, because you have people like Dave Filoni and what's the other, Jon Favreau, who are real true Star Wars fans. Dave Filoni has been anointed by Lucas as the next son. You know, he's the appointed what is it? The something prince, the one who's going to be the next in line.
The heir apparent.
Heir apparent. So he understands in depth what Star Wars is, and he had to prove himself. He started off with Clone Wars, and they were mini shorts, and Lucas was like, okay, we'll let you run with it. And then that moved into the actual Clone Wars, and then, you know, all the other stories that have come out of that, Rebels. He's been a guiding force for a while. And it shows you what somebody who understands the lore and mythology is, and someone who is in it just to build a name for themselves. Kathleen Kennedy didn't care less about Star Wars. It was just an avenue for her to create something within her own, what she wanted, her agenda. I don't know where to go here, but I like where that's headed. I like the people who are coming in. I like that they brought Lucas back. So who knows more about the universe than the guy who created it? Now that, I'm going to put a stipulation on that. When the first 3 movies came out, Lucas was smart enough to realize that if he was going to be writing the stories and producing and controlling it, he couldn't direct them. So each consecutive movie had a different director. The guy who directed the second one was well known for his noir type stories and detectives and all that. And that kind of, what am I trying to say? It had a total different feel than Star Wars, but you could tell it was still all connected and that they cared about the characters. And then the third one to me seemed short. Return of the Jedi seemed like it was something grander there, but Lucas was a little tired, and maybe they just pushed to get everything done and walk away from it. But people wouldn't let that happen. People clamored for more. So comics, we had novels, and all that still had to go through Lucas Films and his company to get approved. All the games that came out after that had to go through, and he went through it with a fine-tooth comb, but he did not step in and step on people's toes. He allowed them to tell their story as long as it fit within a certain set of parameters, because you don't want, if you're world building, you want some set rules. You don't want to just keep changing your mind every time you turn around, so, and that's one thing I appreciate about what Lucas did, is he created a great world. He created a great universe to play in. Whereas when he did the prequels, the first 3, he directed everything. He controlled everything. He produced, directed, wrote, and did it all. And you could tell that it lacked having other people adding to that vision. it kind of went off on its own and lost something. I love the prequels. They grew on me. I always thought Clone War and the last one was better of the three. But it suffered because he was wearing too many hats, too much control, and he needed some other people to tell him no. Sometimes a good leader has to have people around him who go, yeah, that sounds great, but no, and that's what he needed, and he didn't have that. Where he had that was in the first three films he did, which were 4, 5, and 6.
Right. I mean, yeah. Overall, it's definitely been more enjoyable, right? Like I didn't hate Force Awakens. It was a rehash of A New Hope, and I was hoping that I really liked all of Rian Johnson's earlier movies, so I was hoping that Last Jedi would be a step in a different direction, but in a positive way. And I came out of the movie absolutely frustrated and irritated with it, and the third one didn't really help. And it didn't feel like they had a plan, right, at all for that. And even here, you can still, and I've talked about it before, where they do have a plan. It's just, to me, not knowing all the backstory and all the references, right? Like in the last episode, you had Cab Bane, is that his name?
Cad Bane.
Yeah. It's like, so it's like seeing those references in there. I don't know exactly who he is. I know he's from the Clone Wars, so he's a Filoni creation. It's like, that's really neat, and I like seeing those portions of it, right? But not knowing the deep lore to it. There's just aspects where it feels like they're wanting to get to a place in the story, but they're not really earning their way there for me, right? Like, yeah, seeing the culture of the Sand People was really cool. But at the same time, I don't know why Boba went back to the Sand People, right? Like 5 minutes beforehand, he was telling that Rodian about how, hey, I can get you out. First of all, he should have killed that Rodian whenever they were out there in the desert. Like, Boba, after he screwed up his first escape plan, just should have iced that guy and been hauling ass across the desert. So the fact that he didn't do that, killed the giant monster, and then just randomly decided to go back to the Raiders didn't make sense, right? For the story, it needed to happen. But the way it played out in the episode didn't. So the characters are interesting enough that I'm sticking around. It's just, I feel like some of the story beats, they need to pump the brakes just a bit, right? Just a little bit, spend a little bit more time on the different aspects of what you're trying to tell, and not rush there, right? Not rush to the story beat that you want to get to, earn it a little bit better, I guess. But overall, yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot more.
So I'd like two things that you said. The first one is, it's kind of, when you're building a puzzle, you don't get the whole picture right off unless you're looking at the box. But a fun way of building a puzzle is you dump it onto buy a blind puzzle, dump it onto a table, and you don't get an understanding of what the picture is until you start putting enough pieces together to start seeing what it is. And that's what they're doing. This is a giant puzzle that we won't understand until we get further along. Second,
Sure,
Boba Fett in the original movies had less than 3 minutes worth of. How do you know what he would do?
But it's
all
more,
because that's how you read. Why he became
famous
famous is because people read into him what they would want to do. He was a blank character that people could put themselves in, and so it tells me that you would shoot somebody right off the bat.
But he was literally talking right before that monster came out of the sand and killed that Rodian. Yeah. He was talking right there. Hey, I can get us off. He was still talking about leaving. Right? And nothing in the show up to that point established any reason for me to believe that he would want to go back. They were doing the whole back and forth, right? Showing him having the visions of when he was a kid. If it's probably cliche to put it together this way, but if instead of it just being the kid that had gone out with him, right? If it had shown a little bit more of just, instead of the kid beating him with the stick all the time, if it had shown him witnessing the kid, right, the Raider child, and maybe interacting with some of the other individuals, and then you would play it more into, okay, Boba is starting to, see himself in this kid because of his own childhood. Like so you create that bond, that link between him and the child. And it seemed like that's what they tried to do a little bit, because they kept kind of showing him in reference to that kid. He kept kind of looking at him. There was always that little moment, but it didn't make sense, right? There was nothing about their interactions that would have that seemed to really build a bond between them. So when Boba's still saying, "Hey, I want to get out of here. I want to go find my armor. I want to do this, that." So if instead, when the monster, instead of it killing it, Boba should have killed the Rodian. Another Tusken Raider should have been out there with that child watching over them. That creature would have attacked that person. And in that moment, then Boba sees his father being killed, right? And sees himself watching his father be killed all over again. That's whenever he goes, kills the monster, saves that person. And that's why he decides to go back to the Raiders. Then you have emotional beats for his character that form together a reason, right? That he would change his mind in that moment. No longer do I want to leave, because now I see more of myself in this moment. And so I'm willing to go back with them for this. But they didn't develop that. So I get that I personally don't know what the motivation of Boba is, but I don't have any promise in that, especially with where we're at in the show right now, right? The Raiders are all dead. We've moved past that portion of Boba's story, but it should have been so much more of an important building block of him from what this show made it seem like. And I don't know how much of that is Rodriguez being pushed out and whatever the behind the scenes shuffling is going on with the show. But that's what I mean.
Think about the fact they only have a short period of time to show those things, because they're not going to be allowed to stretch that out to 5 episodes of Boba becoming in touch with his humanity. They're doing just enough to hope that the audience can make a logical leap here.
But you could have used the exact same screen time. You could have just changed it around a little bit. You could have just added, instead of us spending a minute and a half of watching Boba riding a giant bison through the desert to music, right, to show the big expanse of the Tatooine desert, because we need to see that, right? There's areas where you could trim it back. There's moments that you could scale back to and put in those scenes, replace the ones that they had where it's just the kid beating on Boba, right? And you could have had him witnessing more of what was going on around him and showing those bits of context, right? I'm not asking for 5 hours of buildup of the Raiders, but there's just little things that I feel like, and it's like what I was talking about with Mando before, right? Where it's, if you had rearranged the episodes, to me, logically, it would have made more sense. Do I not like what they did? No, I enjoyed, like I said, I enjoyed seeing the Raiders, their culture, all that stuff, that build up, but it happened and then it was gone, and it just kind of got brushed under and off. We're on now, right, to the next thing, and that's where it's, again,
I'm wondering if
they're trying to get to the next beat and
an age difference, because I grew up watching movies about like Lawrence of Arabia and those type of people who grow up in harsh environments, and people who live off the land, like the whole old Cowboys and Indians movies. And I could make the connections between those kind of cultures and what they were trying to do in the opening episodes. Whereas I've heard a lot of people having the same complaints as you have, and they're always a younger person or somebody who is not didn't grow up in that period of time where you would have stories like Gunga Din and all these other things where they were pretty harsh environment. And so you'd have people who watch The Man Called Horse and then think about Boba Fett. Think about the movie I was telling you about earlier, The Three Godfathers. See those movies and you'll kind of see the gaps that are there. And Robert Rodriguez is a film buff. He knows all those old films. So he's filling those gaps for himself. And I think he left too many holes for people to follow, not realizing who the newer audience for Star Wars is.
I mean, and it's like what I said, I could see what he was going for, right? What he was going at, because there were those scenes, right? It was clearly that's the kind of of beats that he was trying to fill in, that he was kind of going for, that he was trying to establish. It was just, if you tighten it up just a bit, right? I'm not asking for 8 more episodes for us to build up this backstory. It's just, if you tighten those moments up a little bit more, just redo them a little bit, then it makes it feel a little bit more sensical, right?
And the sad part is, again, Kathleen Kennedy had much more control at the beginning of this than she did towards the end of it. You can actually see in the style of storytelling and things like that, where Favreau and Filoni pulled back those reins from her, and the story got more, tighter. And everybody loved, after he left the Sand People. And there were scenes there that, I didn't care.
Well, because we don't want to see characters that we either idolize or look up to or whatever, as like Boba Fett, in a moment of weakness. And that's probably part of where people come into this. But it's like, for me growing up, I had the original trilogy, and then I had the expanded universe, which was everything to me. The journey of Luke going from after Return of the Jedi, the whole Truce at Korra, the heir to the Empire, the whole Thrawn trilogy, the Timothy Zahn stuff. Getting to see Luke develop, him falling in love, him learning to develop his teachings as a Jedi, becoming a Jedi Master and a teacher.
But in his own right. He didn't follow the old Jedi code.
Correct.
The minute Luke left to go help Han, Leia, and the rest of them, he broke with the tradition, because Yoda was still trying to train him in the same path that he had failed so many times before. It's what destroyed the Jedi.
Right. And that's
that non-connection, non-family. And so right now they're trying to contrast the Jedi, where you cannot have any emotional attachments, and the Mandalorians, who are all about emotional attachments. But you know what? Ever since Boba walked onto the scene, he's had no emotional attachments. I don't even know if he's really a Mandalorian or just somebody who killed somebody and took their armor, because he was a bounty hunter. He didn't seek out and help others in his what do they call them, their tribe or whatever. He just doesn't have the beats that they're trying to apply to the Mandalorians now. And a lot of that stuff has come from Filoni, because up until a certain point in the Star Wars history, Mandalorians and Jedis hated. They went to war with each other.
Yeah, there was
and
a long
in the
war.
original Clone War, Mandalorians were the enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And see, so yeah, I love watching old videos where the people who helped create this stuff, where their mind was then and where they are now, and see how much they try to re-justify their act changes to the lore. Just go watch any of Lucas's old interviews, and you can see he was going in a total different direction than where he wanted to take them after he had completed the 6 movies. The wills and all that other stuff, that all came later.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has to do with us being older, because Ridley Scott does the same thing. If you watch certain directors as they get older, they want to explore mortality and religion and God and things like that, and they write it into what they're trying to do. And that's where the wills are, and I think Lucas was trying to explore that. I think Ridley tried to do that with Aliens, which he should not have done. And a lot of us who are the old school fans, we grew up listening to those interviews, reading the books, collecting the magazines, watching the scripts, they used to leak a script. This was, where Lucas had written this, and you could see how the characters kept changing as the movies changed.
Yeah.
And then once you got writers and authors authorized to tell stories about them, they added their own take on these characters, and these characters grew. And eventually, when a character grows, they take on life of their own. And if you're a good writer, you're going to perceive that, and you're going to let these characters talk in their own voice and let them tell you where they need to go. And that is why I love the novels so much more than the movies, because you've got to get into these characters' heads. You explore their emotions and their feelings.
Well, you get to see where a character actually grows logically versus something that's written on screen for whatever reasons. But so
and there's
the
gaps
answer,
in it because we're like seeing a snapshot of
yes,
them
correct.
at a given point.
You're-
But we don't know what led to that point.
Mhm. So, to answer my cousin's question, I love what they're doing right now. And the reason being is because Star Wars was my first love of anything besides Robotech and a few other things, Transformers. I love Star Wars. You guys all know this. That's all I wanted forever for Christmas. I played all the games. I read the books, the comics. If there was a world I could jump into besides the Robotech universe, it was Star Wars.
He got to go see Empire Strikes Back in his own room, his own womb.
Yeah, that's true.
So his mom was really pregnant when we went and saw that movie.
So, and when I saw the sequel trilogy, I was okay with The Force Awakens, but I hated it. It was like, why did Han have to die? It's like, oh yeah, because Harrison Ford doesn't like the character and he wants to kill him off. It's like, that's not a reason to kill off a character. And then the way to make him die is hold on, Dad. Let me get this out so we can get to the next question and we can go on, because we've been going on this one for a little bit. But the big thing is that, you know, Han should have never died like that. Han would have never died like that. There's nothing in the world that would have stopped Chewie from ripping Kylo Ren apart for killing Han Solo like that. And it should have been Chewie that killed Kylo Ren in that movie, or any of the other movies. But then you have the one movie that I was done. I mean, I felt that the only good movie that we got out of that whole new Disney stuff, the movie wise, was Rogue One. It fit, it worked, it felt like Star Wars. I was there. There was nothing that took me out of it other than the fact that it was Kyle Katarn who was the one who got the Death Star plans and fought a Dark Trooper. But it's okay. I understand that they're trying to do the stuff that was good, you know, but when you have that garbage second movie for Star Wars, and the first thing that happens in the movie is that we're going to drop bombs in space. How does that work in physics in real life? And don't tell me that it's just a movie. It's one thing if you have the chamber pressurized, and then, you know, when she goes and pushes the button, the vacuum pull of the oxygen out of the room pulls the bombs down, and that's what creates the force for them to flow towards the Star Destroyer ships that they have.
It's magnetized. It's magnetized smart technology. It's sci-fi bullshit.
That was no.
Yeah.
Star Wars has
get with the game, Vince. I don't know.
Star Wars has never been that way. Star Wars has never been like that. Star Wars at least had some kind of logic with some of the stuff that they did with the technology. Yeah. Yes, there's a leap in realistic ability. I mean, you know, our
space magic. Space magic exists.
But there's a difference between like Luke going, yeah, I'm a Jedi and I can shoot lightning out of my hands, but you're a Jedi, you can't do that. But Rey can.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, but I'm very pleased with what they're doing with The Mandalorian. It is really connected me back to what I loved about Star Wars. Seeing Luke Skywalker come back on screen made me cry. I felt like a kid again, and that passion I love for Star Wars, you know. And the Book of Boba Fett, I have enjoyed every episode. There's been some moments that are like, okay, I get it. You know, the things that I wish that we would be seeing right now are some more of the bounty hunters. I know that getting, you know, Mando and Cobb Vanth and a couple other people to show up, but the number one people that should be showing up for Boba Fett right now in this army against the Syndicate is IG-88, Dengar, and Bosk.
Yeah.
And these three individuals would be here for Fett regardless.
Well, I don't know if the whole galaxy or where they are, the Outer Rim, knows Fett's back. You know, it.
I don't know about that, because the thing is that the moment Fett's name has been mentioned, I mean, the Hutch started showing up. I mean, there would have been people coming out of the woodwork for Fett. You know,
Well, and you got to remember the mayor was playing all the ends against the middle
Mhm.
to help. What's their name? The syndicate. And so
yes,
I'm sure he is the one who notified the Hutts, hoping that they would take out Fett.
well, because Fett poses the biggest threat compared to like Viv Fortuna, who was like, yeah, handoff-ish. Yeah, I'm the leader of this of Jabba the Hutt
I've eaten
stuff, and
way too much Kentucky Fried Chicken.
yeah, and it's like I'm
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it slide because as long as I get money, I don't care. I mean, like, you know, that's Fortuna would have never taken over Fett's stuff in the first place. But
So when we shift over to the next thing, and before we do that, I want to talk about Han. If you're going to kill Han, you needed to kill him at the end of the third movie. That was the whole point of foreshadowing. I don't think I'm ever going to see her again. You know, I think this is my last thing. That would have been the setup, because then there would have been a major sacrifice for that win. You know, that there would have been a cost for the win. You know, we'd had Luke, bringing his father back, because Luke is the eternal optimist, not the guy that they tried to portray in the prequels. Him redeeming Vader. Leia bringing the Senate back in the Republic. It was either going to be Han or Lando. One of those two is who I thought was going to die. And neither of them did. So there really wasn't. I mean, yeah, they blew up a medical frigate, Akbar and everybody else, but the cost wasn't there to the characters that we were all attached to.
right.
So to do that in the next movie, and to do the first prequel when these actors are older, and you know that we might never get them on screen again together, and not do that is like a slap in the face to every fan who bought a ticket. You know, all they did was rehash, like David said, A New Hope. For me, New Hope was Star Wars. The New Hope part of it came much later. And to kill Han there was no reason because you redeem him anyway later on. And it's not, it should have been the fact that he killed his father. And that is what should have made Kylo Ren fight his way back, because he was tricked into sacrificing his father. But no, his love for Rey is what redeemed him. It took a woman to redeem a man. You know, I love women, but men have been surviving, and making good decisions without women for a long time. Vice versa. Women have been making a lot of good decisions and surviving without men. You don't need to destroy one to promote the other. And that is what those movies did. And for Rey to have all these super magical powers without any training. Oh, well, Leia trained her for like 15 seconds in the beginning. That was all the training she needed.
Luke trained her for 3 days, and then she's supposed to be a big Jedi. And then
what did Luke train her with?
I know exactly.
We didn't see him train her but he drank blue milk from a sea cow, and he walked around going, no, that is not Luke. And then the first time he uses his force powers, he dies. And by killing Luke and by killing Han, she made sure we could never have them all together on screen again. And we lost Carrie because Carrie died of a heart attack. And so that was it. We lost our opportunity. We'll never. Now we're going to watch them in deep fakes. We're going to have computers doing their voice, which I don't mind. But it's still not the same as not having them together again in that third movie. And then to have them stagnated in their life. What in the books, Han went off, became a great general. Leia was the head of the Senate for a while, and then she became an ambassador. She was bringing all these planets back into the Senate, uniting the planet. They had other invading armies that were coming in. They fought other wars. They had children. None of those characters stayed where they were when we last saw them in Return of the Jedi, except in the movies. all of that growth, all that sacrifice, and their children, and all that, Chewie sacrificing himself to save
Anakin.
Anakin, Han and Leia's youngest son. That's all gone, and we'll never get it. If this were aliens, I'd say, hey, make it a hypersleep nightmare and just blow it off. We'll pull a Dallas, get us out of this. But we can't, not with Star Wars.
Yeah, you
Unless
can. Luke
make
has
it
the
where-
ability to see the future. That's the whole thing about Force vision. So Luke
well,
can
and
go and
that's
be
thanks
like,
to Filoni in the creation of the what is the in-between world?
yeah, I can't remember it now.
Because that's what he did with Ahsoka. Ahsoka died. Vader killed her. But in Rebels, come on, what's his name?
Ezra Bridger.
Ezra was able to pull her into the present as a younger person, and so
and he was going to do the
instead of her-
same thing for Kanan,
for
but
Kanan,
he realized that he wasn't. He realized that if he did that, they would have died in the past. He
Yeah.
was the reason why they were able to survive. But let's move on. So Dallas,
Sure.
Okay, I'm done with
Yeah,
that.
I think what I'm hearing from all three of you is the like setup and payoff. There's the setup hasn't been great in some of these situations, and therefore the payoff at the end felt cheap and misguided. I think I read a bit of Joseph Campbell's like hero's journey, and I think that whenever I'm watching these, I'm constantly going to like, are we on a side quest here, or are we on the main arc? Are we, where are these characters going? And for all of these characters in this particular show, I'm interested to see where Ahsoka goes. I'm interested to see where Luke goes, where Grogu goes, where even Fett, for that matter. What does he become a Mandalorian? Does he go, or does he just become not a drug lord?
crime lord.
Well, if
crime lord
yeah.
on Tatooine. Is that the peak of his existence, or does he go on to bigger and better things? And
Well, think about what he's
those are all
saying.
possibilities.
He wants to free Tatooine. He wants to give the people a choice. He's like his hero's journey is to go beyond himself.
Mhm.
And
Plus Ultra.
yeah, thank
Plus
you.
Ultra.
His dad died. Django died because his selfish behavior, and Fett learned from his father in more ways than one. And having almost died and spent we don't know how long inside a Sarlacc stomach being digested, it gave him a new look on life. It's like when a soldier survives an ambush and they come out appreciating life more. We don't appreciate life more until we're about to die, and another thing is we don't pray until, as much as we do when that moment hits. Everybody becomes religious, but
let me take that turn and get you guys another question, because I do have another question that I think Vince kind of hit it there. How do you guys feel technically about where these things are going? It's kind of, I feel like it's gotten back to a Western in space. There's all these Western tropes and samurai tropes. I think that they're incorporating all of that well. I think that technically with this new stage that they have, they're doing some really cool shots. I thought that long take in episode 5 where he's like carrying the bounty's head through the streets, and then goes up in the elevator, and then comes through the club into the diner party. It's all like one 3-minute take, and the camera pans the whole room and then follows him back out the thing and back down the elevator. It's just like a great piece of cinema. Do you guys feel like it's also a great piece of cinema?
So
yes.
The biggest thing about like what's been going on with this season, and even with what was going on with Mandalorian, is that we're starting to get to see more. This has been a world building series. So when Mando's on that planet that looks like the Halo ring, I mean, there was a lot of callbacks. I'm pretty sure that they did that just for all the Halo fans, especially considering the fact that Halo didn't come out too long ago. You know, you get to see characters. I mean, it's a sad thing that we didn't get to see more of Boba Fett and him progressing and contacting other people, but we got to see something like what's going on with Mandalorian, Din Djarin, and then the fact that him getting his new ship, which was a throwback to the new Boost Starfighter, so episode 1. Also in that same scene, you got to see BD droid, which is a throwback to the Fallen Order, which was great.
It was what's his name? It was what's his name's companion,
Cal Kestis droid. And I don't know if it's his same droid or not. I doubt it, but at least it's that same type of droid, and it's good. And that's the one thing I've been loving about this season so far, is getting to see aliens talk their own language. They're not just talking basic. They're talking Rhodian. They're talking, other stuff inside Star Wars that we grew up with the original trilogy. It's been great getting to see Luke and him training Grogu. That was amazing. I've watched it 3 times already, that same episode. And I got to watch it halfway through with Anna. I got to watch it again with Anna and Edward, and I watched it again just to see the things I missed. And I don't like the fact that they built the huts that look like from Octu. I really wish it would have been them more building the temples. And I want the temple look. I don't want
I wanted it to be on
little bitty
Yavin,
huts. Yeah.
because they don't
Yavin.
explain that
Correct.
Yavin is where Luke's
The
first
first
school is.
Yeah, and that's where the first Jedi Academy originally was.
And there's so many stories to be told about that planet, man, Exar Kun and all that other stuff.
So, but it was great to see R2. I didn't like the fact he went into sleep mode. It's like, we're foreshadowing the whole thing of what happens in The Force Awakens and everything. No, I don't need R2 to power down. I mean, Luke doesn't have to run away and hide. He can literally go take him to an astromech dealer and have him fix him so he doesn't have any power problems. Anyway, but I would have loved to see C-3PO. I'd love to see C-3PO on some of this at some point. Even though, I know some people don't like him as a character. I do. He's a part of that Star Wars series, and I'd love to see him in it. But, on top of that, it was great seeing Ahsoka and having their moment with her and Mando. And then, the fact that we got the choice at the end. Now, if you follow EU, which is where they need to go and get away from the prequel trilogy and start telling stories that allow these characters to grow in the right direction. Especially that, if you're writing a story, a character eventually will speak for itself. You're just basically transcribing what they're saying in your head. You know what they're going to do, their actions, they're going to progress a certain way. And that's why The Last Jedi was horrible, because Luke was not Luke Skywalker in that movie. Luke would have never broken, would have never told some person who's coming to see him to think, he would have never tossed his lightsaber. And it was just so stupid. But
no, and I mean, it broke down the minute it all became Palpatine was the villain again.
Yes.
So it threw everything that was accomplished in Return of the Jedi out into trash.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that if you're going to talk about that, you're going to look at the fact that here's a moment in time, right? You're going to tell the next trilogy of the Star Wars saga. You could bring in a new villain, and you could bring in new enemies, and not rehash what we had before, because you're afraid that people are not going to like what you're making because it's not familiar enough. Well, if you have the characters that you want, you develop these new characters to actually be believable and likable, and you get to grow with them, and the things that they're doing is believable. That's one thing. That was what was the magic of both the original and the prequel trilogy, is that we got to spend time with these characters. And it took a while before we got the next movie, not 2 years. or 3 years. You know, it's like, oh, here's one, and then here's another one. There was no growth in these characters, and some of these movies like took back. They happened like back to back. There was no time for the universe to flow and like, hey, we're going to kind of come back in to see how these characters are doing. It was like we never got time to have that growth with them, you know. And then, you know, they were doing the whole thing in the last movie was oh, hey, Ray, I'm force sensitive now, you know, for
Finn.
Finn. And it's like, he was my favorite character of the whole series, and he was shafted the whole way through. I'm sorry.
They should have explored him.
He was,
you know, I always hated that they were like, oh, we're going to find out he's a clone. I was like, please don't let that be true. Please don't let that be true. You know, if they really wanted to talk about anybody can have the force, well, everybody has the force in flowing through them. But, and God, man, I don't want to hear another thing about
your midichlorians.
Midichlorians, man. That was the biggest
get
garbage.
with the program.
You know, even Han, luck, what we would consider luck in Han's skill was still him tapping into the force, because the force is, as Lucas said, it surrounds us, binds us, and everything else.
Penetrates everything.
So it penetrates everything, which that could be a total different movie. But they were trying to it's kind of like where we are today, where everybody gets a participation award, and it takes away from the achievement of everybody. You know, giving everybody an achievement award is great for effort, but it should never take away from that, what somebody who goes above and beyond to do. You know, you go to college to get a degree to get a good job so you can get paid more. You wouldn't want somebody who's never been in college or never been to high school walking in and getting the same job you have, would you? I would feel ripped off. What did I just spend the last 4, 5, 8 years of my life doing? Luke had to go through a lot to get where he was, and Rey did nothing. It was all given to her. It was all natural. You know, no. I'm harping on
I think
that.
after this segment, we need to get rid of the ranting about the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, you had said something, and I was trying to remember what it was while I was talking there. I was trying to walk my way back around to it, and I can't. But the thing about the characters in the expanded universe is we got to see them grow, and they weren't where we last saw them.
Correct.
You know,
every time you got a book, you got to go back. It was like you're going back to these characters, you know.
And you say, okay, well, let me catch up with you. You contact a friend. You go, I haven't seen you in about 2 years. What's been going on in your life? You got to see where they had grown and progressed. Some people don't, but most people do. And that was missing from those prequels. So to me, they don't exist. I don't reference them. I don't own them, and I can't stand them. For me, the actual sequels to Star Wars started with the first Mandalorian series, and that's what they're building now. No, as far as, you know, Mando, I think is going to be the one who, because he's got the dark saber, I think where they're building him up to become the one who reunites
Mandalore. He'll get the title of Mandalore.
Mandalore, yeah. I think Boba is going to become kind of like a Conan character. He was a barbarian, a thief, and all this other stuff until he took the mantle of a king, and then those responsibilities drove him to make the kingdom of Aquilonia became one of the shining jewels in Hyboria until he disappeared and died. But did that mean that everything was perfect? No. Even his best friends and his people in his court who wanted power were always trying to either manipulate him or assassinate him. So there's always more stories to be told, and we don't have to have the same enemies over and over and over and over again. I mean, how many Fantastic Four movies do we have to have where Doctor Doom is the main villain, when they had this rogue gallery of other people?
Mole Man, Namor, just to name two.
I mean, and that's where we are. They pigeonholed themselves while trying to get rid of everything that existed before. And you get, I'm gonna pop culture thing here. There are fans who stick with something through thick and thin. They're there during the feast and famine. Those are the true fans of Star Wars. They're the ones who kept it going, even when everybody else had forgotten about it. And nobody was buying anything. There weren't any new movies. Artists, writers, toy makers, those people who grew up loving this decided to keep it in the forefront and keep pushing for more stuff to come out. And they decided, no, we're getting rid of all of that. And we're going to tell you, what kind of universe you should be watching. We don't want George Lucas' philosophy involved in this anymore. And so it was almost like we want a merchandising tool that'll help us pump out more garbage that nobody needs. And that's not why I love Star Wars. And you had said something about the hero's journey and Campbell. Luke had a mentor. The biggest thing in that is there's the journey of the young person gets a mentor, father figure. There's the turmoil. The mentor dies so that the other person can ascend to becoming the hero, and then the cycle starts over again. And that broke in this. The first movies were about Luke's hero's journey. The prequels were about Anakin's failure to complete the journey, and then the third set of movies were about a bunch of people who moved in from New York, took over your neighborhood, and had parties all the time, and you were just like, can we burn their house down? No, they were horrible. God, man, I can't stand them. And I just want people to give it a chance to see where they're going with this, because we've got so many people who now thrive on just bad mouthing stuff that comes out before it's even out for people to form their own opinion. Everybody wants to be an influencer.
They're talking piece.
We don't give anything a chance.
Yeah.
And I think if they would just give this a chance, people go like, I don't like Rebels. Rebels ended up being one of the greatest animated series for 5 seasons. Same thing with Clone Wars. These people have proven over and over again they know what they're doing with these stories. They just need a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have somebody like a big corporation like Disney running it, you only get very few chances to succeed because they're risk adverse. They don't like to waste money. They don't like failure. So with all these people who are, bad mouthing this, they're going to end up ruining it. Disney's going to throw it all out. We're going to start all over again. And then we're going to get another origin story. I don't need that.
Yeah. And I guess, right. It's like, I'm not.
Hey, David, hold on real quick.
It's like what I said before, right? It's
David, hold on.
David, hold on. You're our only hope. The other two have in no way answered the question of, are you loving what's happening technically, what they're doing? What
I didn't even get to finish.
I'm just wanted to throw in that, David,
I love
you're our
everything.
only hope.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hit and miss, right? Like you have these last 2 episodes where you had Mando flying around in the ship, and that shot of him of looking up at him from the cockpit, you being able to see the planet spiraling in the background, right? Like, yeah, technically on a lot of those, on a lot of these scenes, it's been really good. And then but then you have episodes like which one was it that added the absolutely god awful cyborg crew with their Skittle?
So you don't like the scooter?
I'll tell you that was supposed to be a nod to American Graffiti, but I understand. I still get it.
Are you sure it was American Graffiti and not Ninja Turtles with the neutrinos
or Fast and the Furious with the in Star Wars?
No. Like, so you could do chase scenes right through the streets of Mos Eisley or wherever in Star Wars. All that's fine, but the costumes of those people looked so bad.
Okay,
like the second they showed up on screen, I stopped and was like, I don't know who was the costume designer that day, but they need to go back to the drawing board because these look awful. And so like whenever
Well, who puts a trap door on your stomach
on.
when they
The last
rebuild you
episode,
into a
right?
cyborg?
Well, what's funny is that the last episode, right, where they group together in Boba's little outfit, and you see Boba, you see what's her name, Boba's right hand lady, the
Fennec.
yeah, you see her, you see Mando standing in there in his Beskar armor, you see the big roided out, black and white
Wookiee.
armor, and then you see those people, and it's just like it's like I'm back on Sesame Street back in the day. One of these things is not like the other.
Belong here.
So it's like awesome.
Not.
What the hell happened here, right? So
Yeah.
crap like that, right? But it's a TV show, so little stuff like that I try not to really take against them. But again, these last two episodes, there were some gorgeous shots. The cinematography was amazing. I mean, look at Luke, right? The digital effects that they did for Luke for this, right? And how they made him look the entire time.
Deep technology.
There was so little jank to that CG face from what we've seen. Like the tech has come leaps and bounds from what even the end of the second season of Mando, right? This looked even better because
and they've said not Filoni, Favreau was on an interview today, and he was talking about how the technology, while they made this one, that they've made a huge leap while they were filming Mandalorian season 3, because they finished. Now everything's in post-production. And they said people are going to be blown away because there were some shading problems with certain light sources. They fixed that. They said that we've gotten more emotion to the, because Luke seemed a little stiff at times. He said it's now flowing very well. And then the fact that they can, Mark Hamill's voice was not used in this other than recordings of things he has said in other things in the past movies, which, if you remember, that technology started all the way back with Dragonheart, when they took all of Sean Connery's facial images to create the dragons, and they took his words from all the movies he's been in and interviews and created some of the dialogue for that. Now, he did do some of the dialogue, but he didn't do all of it. Some of it was they put it all. Somebody's a little synthesizer having the dragon talk in Sean Connery's voice. But can you imagine the leaps and bounds they're going to make by the time we get to, if we get lucky enough to get Book of Boba Fett? Because Disney announced today that with the release of the next episode of the Book of Fett, that if it doesn't, on Wednesday, if it doesn't get the viewership that they want and the reaction they want, they aren't going to do the second half of the book. And that's what kills me, because then once again, we've started this and they're going to have to move some of this into other stories that's going to bump the story that they had for them. And it's a cascading effect. If you want to see a second season for Book of Boba Fett, you should watch this, encourage your friends to watch it and give it a chance. But we missed out on a lot of stuff from this season that has now been pushed off into other stories.
Yeah, there's going to be some big appearances of characters from the EU.
Yep.
And this at the end here in this last episode that got pushed out.
So real quick, pulling back from the story again to the technical side, I was actually thinking about that after watching this latest episode, and it kind of struck me, right, with how, like what you said, risk averse so many of these companies are. It makes me wonder at what point we're going to reach where we no longer have new actors in movies, right? It's just this movie would only really be good as a Keanu Reeves vehicle. So now we're just going to get someone to put in the role, and then we're just going to digitize Keanu, right, on this person. And it's
me and Vince had the same conversation today.
He'll be long past that. Oh no, this movie would be perfect with 20-year-old Keanu Reeves, so let's throw him in there. And oh, this would be perfect for 45-year-old Bruce Willis. Let's CG his face in there and run with it. It's like I'm almost terrified of the possibilities, because like earlier today I saw the trailer that came out for Lightyear, right? Which it looks really good. But whenever I was looking at it and I was watching it with my son and we got to the end of it, he's like, "What do you think?" I was like, "I think I would watch that movie even if it wasn't Buzz Lightyear." And I don't understand why it is Buzz Lightyear in this movie. Like, just give me a cool sci-fi. And he's like, "Do you really think people would go see that?" And I was like,
Yes.
at this point, I don't know anymore. It's like,
No, I agree with David.
things ability to stand on their own. It's no. We need a name to be able to attach to it, to throw in here.
Well,
and so,
yes. Well, because we're
Which-
beyond the days of like heavy metal and what was it? Rock and roll, and then what was the other one? The
Fire and Ice and
Legend of the
then
Star
there was
Chasers.
Legend of Star Chasers, which are all independent stuff.
Yeah.
Again, we had this conversation one time where we talked about it's the independents where all the new stuff comes in because the big studios, they don't want to risk anything anymore. But I agree with David. That's one of the reasons why Kennedy wanted to use Star Wars to push her version of an epic space adventure. People want to use what already exists that has a built-in audience and following to sell their new product. They don't want to create anything new. They don't want to put in the work to develop it and have people watch them grow and get into them and follow them. We're all looking for shortcuts. Everything has to be the quick fix. We're looking for a magic pill, and that's in business and in life. And we don't need Superman to be black when you've got great black characters in DC and other comics who need to have their stories told. But no, you want to steal from something else and piggyback on top of it because you know there's a built-in audience for it. And and it's happening more and more in movies, and I can't stand it. I'm not looking forward to the new Indiana Jones movie. There are just several movies that have been so drastically changed. I'm just not, I don't care. And then now, I don't even know if they're going to do a Dune Part 2. So now that was great. We got to see half a story.
Well, kind of, isn't that what David Lynch wanted to do originally? Was he wanted to just do the second book, but because the movie bombed, he couldn't do it.
Well, yeah, but if you go even back before that, there was somebody else who wanted to do a three movies that encompassed, I think, the first 3 books, and it didn't happen.
Okay, so we're getting off topic now.
Off topic,
Yeah.
but we're not.
Okay.
But we are.
yeah, because
back to the technical thing.
Look, we're still talking about Boba Fett because we still got the spice, the cinnamon spice.
Yeah, we're still on Dune.
True.
I mean, come on, comics is like let the spice flow.
I remember when
Check it
I
over.
first saw the movie Arrakis, I was like, "Oh, there's going to be spiders in this," and it was worms. I was disappointed.
Okay,
I'm joking there. I read the books before I saw the movie.
I think one of the great things that having the last 2 episodes did was it goes back to a conversation I had with my buddy Russell at the time when I worked at Best Buy. And Star Wars KOTOR 2 came out, and we're talking about how great it was that there was no ice planet. And at least I don't know, there wasn't. Take that back. But we were talking about the fact that there was ice planets in both games or whatever. And it's like, we want more of a vista, other things that we could see, of planets we could go to, right? And it was hilarious because this guy overheard the conversation. He goes, like Hoth, right? And I was like, yeah, exactly like Hoth. And then we started talking to him too about Star Wars. But we got to see other planets than Tatooine. I am tired with Star Wars of seeing Tatooine. It is not the center of the universe. It's on the outer rim of the universe. I get
It's
what's
like a
going
toilet
on
in
with,
an old truck stop on a road that nobody
I
uses
understand
anymore.
what's going on with the Book of Boba Fett because it takes place on Tatooine, and he's the king of the throne of Jabba's palace and all this stuff. I love it, but the problem is I want to see other planets and other interactions with other characters.
And that's where episode 5, right? Episode 5 and the ring world that we saw and all that stuff is so very promising of being able to see, because that's what I was excited about whenever they first announced Mandalorian, right? Was, you can still do the West without having to have a desert, right? You can still do that style of story in an urban setting, right? You can still match that. I mean, we saw it, right? Again, episode 5. Episode 5 was fantastic. Him walking in, and that's what really makes that's what keeps bringing me back to the Mandalorian show, right? That's why it has a different feel to the other Star Wars stuff, right? Like the moment when he cuts that dude in half on the table, man, I was like, holy shit, we're getting violent in a Star Wars show now. This is getting good, man. And being able to see this, and it's like what we talked about way back when we were discussing Mass Effect, right? And me wanting to see a Citadel version, right? It's like
Yes.
the grand epic side of Star Wars is great, and it's been awesome to see, but it's cool to see that underbelly side as well, right? And that's what you would think that you would see with the bounty hunters, and that's where it's like I look forward to seeing more of that, seeing that underbelly of all these other places. And so that's where I hope Boba Fett proceeds along and does well. At the same time, I do want to see more of that other side of Mando, right? With him wrestling with being kicked out from the Mandalorian sect that he's in, right? Wrestling with all that, trying to work with the dark saber, all that stuff, but see it in those other settings, because it gives you so much more to plumb out of, and you do get those amazing shots, right? Of that ring world, of that big Coruscant looking like city that he was in, being able to see him fly around with planets and other vistas in the background as he's going around in space. Like that's what you want to see, because we're here for sci-fi, right? And that's
right. But you don't want that to ever become what is expected. The spectacle. We've all seen movies that look fantastic that have no story and no characters. It's all got to mesh perfectly together, or it's just it loses you in too many different ways. I want to say something about, the part with Grogu and Luke, and I'm going to put the ball here, and I'll put the samurai sword here, and you need to choose the path that you're going to take. That's straight out of Lone Wolf and Cub. And I saw that in there, and I was like, oh my God, somebody here knows the Lone Wolf and Cub stories, because when the samurai decided he was going to get even with the people who had killed his family, and it was only him and his son, he was going to kill his son. He said, if I can't protect you. If you're going to go with me, you need to become of the way of the sword and of violence. If you choose the ball, then you're a pure soul, and I'm going to send you to heaven so that your soul stays pure. And that was that moment, right, with Grogu, and I was like, why the hell did you do that? It is beautiful. I love it, but Luke would never have done that.
Well,
Luke would have said, go ahead and go. I mean, I can't wait to see Grogu walking around his little chainmail with his Mandalorian helmet with the 2 spikes sticking out of his ear like an armored Yoda, because that's where we're going to head here.
Okay, so here's the thing, though, because in that episode, let's break it down real quick. In that episode, Luke showed Grogu that he doesn't have to focus on one thing. He can focus on many.
On both, if they follow that path.
And if you follow through the whole thing, Luke's torn by, he doesn't feel like he's in it. His heart's in there. He doesn't know what he should do. He feels like he's kind of just guiding into his memories to relearn the things he's already learned. And then whenever he asks Ahsoka, hey, what should I do? And she goes, well, follow your instincts, follow your heart. Well, basically. And it's like Luke, the thing about Luke, what made Luke so great was the fact that he took the Jedi teachings, that the little bit he got for the period of time he had with Yoda, because he didn't have much time with, maybe a couple of weeks or months, depending on the hyperdrive time from Tatooine to Alderaan, and then everything in between. So you got to think about how, like, Luke was told that he couldn't do things. And through the trilogy, we found that Luke could do these things. Now, he may lose an arm or, get beat up, but Luke had to find his own path to be a Jedi. And that's the thing, is that, in the EU, that's what he did. He allowed his students to have attachments, because it's the attachments that gave them strength and kept them balanced. Yeah. And it helped guide them to staying in the light. Now, one of the things that me and Dad always wanted to happen with Star Wars, with especially with the sequel trilogy, was that if bringing harmony to the Force, because that's what Vader was supposed to be, or Anakin was supposed to be, the harmony to the Force.
He's supposed to bring balance. Yeah.
The balance. And you can have dark side and the light side, but you have to have that balance to be able to use both.
And we've
And
known
that's
that there were Jedi who did walk that path.
Correct.
They balanced and they used both the dark and light side. And they were great Jedi.
Mhm.
And in I don't like dealing in absolutes. I don't like people who deal and believe in absolutes, because the world is really gray. And so it goes back to, like, originally Star Wars, there were Force ghosts. If you died, join the Force, you could come back as a Force ghost. Then Lucas decided to make it, nope. Qui-Gon Jinn's going to figure it out after he's dead. He's going to come teach Yoda, and then Yoda's going to tell him to, and then he's going to send Obi-Wan to learn from him. Now they're bringing Force ghosts back into, so technically only 3 Jedi have ever learned to produce a Force ghost.
Yeah,
and how Anakin pulled it off, I don't know, because he wasn't trained. So I'm like, Lucas, are you paying attention to what you're writing? And now they're bringing Force Ghosts back, because we're going to see Force Ghosts in the upcoming Mandalorian. And when we see Luke training more and we meet Mara Jade and all these people, we're going to start seeing Force Ghosts that are from the prequels.
Yeah.
So they're returning back to that. And I'm looking forward to that, because that's how Luke learned, through the holocrons, or whatever you want to call them, holocrons, and through the Force ghosts that he met.
So, and to add into this real quick is the fact that, like, I would love to see Grogu take both, because Luke already showed him that he could do that with all the frogs. It's like, why grab one when you can grab them all?
Oh, come on. You knew once they put a George Jetson mother-in-law back seat in the back of his little jet, that's where Grogu was going to set. And wait. I want to go a little bit further than that. Luke brings back Grogu's memory. And what is Grogu's first memory? Of people using lightsabers and getting killed.
Yeah.
So now he's terrified of a lightsaber. And then what are you going to do at the end? You're going to go, hey, choose.
Yeah, choose.
Oh, well, that thing kills people.
Well, and that's the thing.
I don't want to kill people. But then you got Grogu, who eat anything in sight without a hint of regret.
Well,
so taking a lightsaber shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, frogs mainly, but especially frog embryos. Anyway, but the thing too is the fact that, like, with this is, people are saying that Luke's first training a Jedi, his first Padawan, is, Ben Skywalker or Ben Solo, which should be Ben Skywalker, but anyway,
it wasn't
Ben Solo, but they're
siblings.
But Yoda, I mean Grogu, baby Yoda, or whatever, Grogu is going to be the one that would be his first disciple now, if he decides to choose the lightsaber. But I think he needs to choose both to remind Luke of the fact that this is the way.
But again, they're trying to follow what they started in the prequels.
Got to get rid of this sequel trilogy.
You've got the Mandalorians are about family, and Jedi are about getting rid of idea of family love. You can't have anybody, no attachments.
So does that make Vin Diesel a Jedi? I mean, a Mandalorian.
It's gonna make it hard when you introduce Mara Jade.
Yes, I know.
Because Mara Jade becomes Luke's wife, and that's the thing. Comes
they
from.
need. I don't know if they're just waiting for the stuff with Kathleen Kennedy to finish so they can do what they want to officially do. Because keep in mind too, I know people are complaining about this season of Book of Boba Fett, but you got to keep in mind that this stuff was already written and filmed already before we started seeing it. So, it's not like.
And she was ahead of it until about the third episode.
Until about the third episode. You can see, if you watch the series, you can see the transition from influence to not. And but I do want to bring something up. So it was great getting to see Timothy Olyphant come back as Cobb Vanth. And the fact that, like, his whole thing at the beginning, and then, all right, I don't know if do y'all remember Transformers the movie? I know my dad does, with Hot Rod and Optimus Prime. So that whole scene where they're having the standoff, Hot Rod's over there like, all right, Prime, I got him. He pulls out the thing, gets shot, and gets Prime shot.
Gets Prime
I'm like,
shot, yeah.
This is a total Transformers ripoff right here. But it was great. I loved it. So, but I wonder how many people caught that. It was like,
well, and like
no,
I told
you don't,
you,
Megatron.
I'm hoping he ends up being the bounty hunter from the original comic series that gets the robot arm that goes out hunting for Luke.
Well, yeah,
because I was like,
they did the classic thing of, they didn't kill him, right? He got shot.
Yeah, he got shot in the arm. Yeah.
Yeah, he got shot over here.
Give him a robotic arm.
He's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was actually wondering, I'm like, I wonder if Timothy Oliphant doing the show is what made him want to go back and do the new season of Justified.
Justified, yeah.
So, and that's the thing too, is like, you think about it. We've already know that there's these tech romancers on the planet that can sit there and save anyone from anything as long as they have robotics. So we can just go take him over there. He'll get a robot arm. He's good as gut. He's good as gold. He may have like guts internally that are robot parts, but hey, whatever.
As long as he doesn't end up looking like Johnny Five, I'm happy.
As long as he doesn't have a stupid ass robot eye thing, I'll be fine.
Then he'd be Cable
and a big bright red scooter.
Yeah.
Yes. Don't do that, please. Please leave him alone. God.
Okay.
I'm afraid of certain things, like the new fight that's going to happen between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Which never happened.
Why? It should never happen. Okay, once you start, you should never change a fixed point. The duel between Obi-Wan and Vader was a fixed point. Don't F with it. If Obi-Wan, and because Vader's still alive at the time, he can't be a Force ghost, so you're really limited unless he's like, we're going to see Obi-Wan leave Tatooine to go do other things, and maybe he comes across a place where, because that in a way was Obi-Wan's failure. It was the same test that Luke did when he went into the tree, the dark side tree. So maybe it'll be a fantasy dream sequence. I don't know, but they had their fight. Leave it alone.
I'd rather have it to where that it's like, as Obi-Wan's traveling, doing whatever he's doing, before he comes back to Tatooine, he's seeing and hearing reports of the devastation of Darth Vader, and he has these nightmares of him confronting Vader, because the fact that this is his fault. He was the one. Now, technically, he shouldn't even know who Darth Vader is.
No.
So until later, and that could be one of the story arcs, is the fact him finding out who Darth Vader is after Vader's been going around killing all the rest of the remaining Jedi, and he's like, shit, this is my fault. I don't know. And so he's like, my best bet is to go back to protect Luke. He's our only hope. He is our only hope.
I could see him running into Vader but not realizing who he is and barely escaping, and realize that he's endangering Luke by keep going on missions, and that's why he decides to stay on Tatooine and protect him. So I don't know if y'all guys are aware, I know my son is, that there's going to be a time jump between the end of this episode and the start of Mandalorian 3, season 3. We're going to see about a 10-year-old older Luke. He'll have more of the facial features. He's going to be.
It'll be another 5-year jump from.
Yeah, I thought it was 10. Because
it's 10 from Return of the Jedi. So.
Okay, and he's going to be wearing the ceremonial Jedi robes that he was wearing in the prequel movies, and I'm like, I want to know why you would have Luke jumping from that cool jet black outfit. Is all set into the white robes, because he's not there yet. It's not until much later in Luke's life, after all the adventures he's gone on, and him fighting certain ancient evils and learning so much more about the Force, that he even becomes close to that. So, and I don't think you could do that in a 5-year jump. And so I'm not really happy with that. It seems like we were talking earlier that they are jumping to try to get towards something. And
Well,
as
because
fast as they
this would be
can.
about the time, because if we will know hopefully within the next season, because that if they're going to continue on the path of the sequel trilogy, or they're going to go towards a more EU hybrid story.
Yeah.
Where, because we'll have the birth of the twins, so Jaina and Jason should be born if they're going to do it. And this should lead up to the whole thing of his journey to, because we know that Thrawn's going to be the big bad.
Yeah.
They're building up to Thrawn. So that means also that the can't remember what the fleet is, that legendary fleet that's stuck out in the middle of not hyperspace,
It's the
far
Dark
reaches of the
Fleet or
galaxy.
something. It's those planet destroyer ships
And
that are.
that Thrawn's after. And this would bring the introduction of Mara Jade. We would get Talon Card if they're going to do that. We already know.
And Mara Jade is not going to be the Emperor's right hand. They're switching that over. She's Thrawn's right hand.
Yeah.
And she's
that's
trying
because,
to find out and bring them back from that lost area of space and that'll bring Ezra into the story, and it's going to bring Mara Jade, and it's going to bring Thrawn into the continuity now.
That's because they put Rook in Rebels instead of having him with whatever storyline they're doing right now. Yeah. But there's supposed to be, now there's talk that if they're going to do completely CGI Luke still, or if they're going to still cast Sebastian Stan like they've been planning to do. And I've also heard rumors that they're going to be doing more. So there's going to be storylines that takes place during the jump or in between the jump that may have Sebastian Stan come in as a stand-in for Luke for that.
Yeah, because those are going to be like where Ahsoka's story takes place, the Obi-Wan story takes place in some of these gaps. And they're going to be what helps carry the story over. They're going to be the filler that completes the story for audiences.
Saying there's going to be more back to tanks?
I'm sorry?
Are there going to be more back to tanks?
No.
Yeah,
no.
Okay. No back to hypersleep.
No hypersleep memories.
Nightmares.
These will be actually just like this. You'll get a timestamp scroll that say 10 years ago, and you'll see what led up, and you'll fill it full of little bitty moments that help catch you up to where you're going to be in the later episodes. But right now they've been trickling seasons out, and next year and towards the end of this year, we're going to have multiple series running, including cartoons.
In May is Obi-Wan. But okay, so Dallas, do you have another question you want to ask, or does he only make two?
I did, but it's probably deep. It's going to be
go ahead.
Well, because we'll do one final one, and then we'll just wrap this up. So
yeah,
but
sure.
I'm not coughing right now, so
what
go
you guys
for it.
Think about Luke and the dogmatic ways of the Jedi, and how that fell apart in the prequels, and how that is relates now. Is he going to keep that up going forward? It seems like his school was based in some part on that.
But it wasn't in the books. It wasn't.
Yeah, and I don't have a frame of reference. You guys are the experts, so I'm
Jedi Academy books. The Young Jedi Knights tell that whole story. Luke first built his. Luke figured out that on Yavin there were old Jedi temples. There's Jedi temples on planets all over. And a matter of fact, there's going to be a series where they're going looking for artifacts on these planets.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are hidden, like in Rebels, where they bury themselves in the ground. Some have guardians that protect them. And you find out that on Yavin, that Jedi had to sacrifice themselves to imprison the spirit of Exar Kun on the planet, who then tries to take over Luke because he needs a body, which is very similar to what they tried to do later on with Palpatine and him wanting to. So eventually they had to leave that planet, and they went somewhere else and formed the second Jedi Academy. Then at the same time, some of the Dark Force users formed their own Shadow Academy, where they were training Dark Jedi. And then at the same time, you had people who were still practicing Sith magic, who were trying to play both ends against the middle. Keep them at war so they don't know what's going on in the real world. There's this whole span of things that happen with the Jedi Academy long before they ever get destroyed. And Ben is actually in this substituted for the older
Jason,
Han's
Solo.
oldest son, who fell because, like Luke, thought that he could walk that line between the dark side, and he went to become Emperor Palpatine's apprentice, thinking he would be able to find out what Palpatine was doing and why he was cloning himself. And then it took his sister to come in and bring him back to the light side. So Luke thought he could do just what Anakin did, and he was failing too. But his sister came in, Han came in, and they were able to bring him back. And then even Palpatine still existed into the third thing, where he tried to take over and possess their smallest child, while she was pregnant with the baby.
Oh, and Jason. But the thing is that Jason ended up getting after the invasion of he ended up dying. He got killed by Jaina from her.
But he became a Dark Jedi and Sith Lord.
Sith Lord.
And that whole thing played out similar to what happened to Anakin. And then I know that at some point they're going to bring in Cade. They're going to jump about 100 years, which is Luke's great-grandson. And he does the same thing, but where Luke is now a Force spirit, he's there to anchor Cade whenever Cade tips too far over, because Cade had no training, didn't care. He was kind of a mix between Luke and Han, shoot first, ask questions later. And I know that they're talking about doing a huge jump like that, so they can tell future stories that aren't so connected to Lucas's original vision.
So, for the current series, right? For the current series, ignoring all the possibilities of what has been done compared to what it looks like we're doing, right? It still seems like what y'all are talking about, right? That Luke is still somewhat dogmatic in his beliefs and views when it comes to the Jedi.
No. In the EU,
offering that choice to Grogu, right? Like that's still kind of
that's right. But that's because they're still anchored to the mistake that Disney made in the prequels, and they're still playing up on it because this is still Disney, and Disney has not let go of some of that. But Luke did not do that in the comics. Okay. Luke marries Mara Jade. He has a child, which never would have happened if he was dogmatic. And they're bringing that into the story.
Right. So, and that's where it's kind of, I think that was where the question was, right? Of how we think that's going to be, how we think they could pull that off. Right. And it seems like it would, based on what we've seen so far and what you guys are saying about what the next series is supposed to do. Right. It looks like it'll be one of two things. It'll either be Grogu making this decision and Luke seeing how it plays out. Right. And that informing his understanding, right, of that, or at least being the first chip in that armor of what he believes the Jedi should be. And then in the introduction of Mara Jade and in the next series might be that tipping point for him, right? She might be the catalyst that opens his eyes to these other possibilities. I don't know. But it seems like that's an avenue that they could potentially take in order to draw him away from his dogmatism.
Well, because we got to get away from the dogmatism, because that's what leads him down to what happened in the sequel trilogy. Because
my hope is that there's two paths they could follow. One, they're already wanting to redo the original original stories, just completely redo them and make them in line with the prequels, that would be a mistake, because they're going to basically destroy everything that
You're going to
went
alienate your
before.
fan base at that point.
Or they're going to allow the prequels to exist. Luke dies, and then he is brought back in the same way Ahsoka is, through the wills, the world between worlds, and things like that, which is kind of where Kylo Ren went, because they're bringing Kylo Ren back. He's not dead. And so there's a battle going on for the soul of Star Wars at Disney now, and it's really going to depend on who wins this battle. And I hope like hell it's Filoni and Favreau, because if for any way Catherine Kennedy can keep her little claws into this, it's going to be bad. And it won't last another year and a half, I don't think. Maybe 2 years tops. But and she's still supposedly working with that other director to do the Acolytes, which that Acolyte is supposed to just destroy everything we've known about Star Wars. So they're going to call that an alternate Star Wars tale that happens in a far off place in the Star Wars universe. Yeah.
Okay. So
hire me.
This is how
have the answers.
Yeah. I would like this to happen. You could still have the sequel trilogy, but with what they're doing with Ahsoka, with the wills, I'd have it to where she changes the future and makes it to where Luke makes a decision that he should have made, because technically this does hinge on Luke. His decision to do what he does with the Jedi Temple and the Jedi Order is what leads Ben down the dark path. But because he makes the change, it also could mean that Ben's never born, or the twins are born, and then maybe Anakin's born, and then we'll probably get Ben Skywalker like we're supposed to have, instead of. There's no reason. I'm going to go on a rant here just for a second.
I know where your head going.
There is no reason Leia or Han would have named their child Ben Solo, because the fact that she knew him as Obi-Wan, and Han only knew that crazy old wizard for one trip to Alderaan. Like I said, maybe a couple of months or a couple of weeks, depending on how long.
No, it was hours. It was actually hours.
Okay. So
hyperspace.
I'm sorry. I can't sit there and believe the logic of having a character named Ben Solo. Ben Skywalker, I can understand. Yeah. Not Ben Solo.
And there is a Ben Skywalker later.
Yeah.
That was the thing. I could just hear what's his name? The director.
Oh,
I liked
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams. I liked Super 8. I love his take of Star Trek. But good Lord, man, he was sitting there and he went, Jason Jacin. That doesn't work. You know what? People want nostalgia. Let's make it Ben Solo. Leia doesn't know him. All she's ever known about him was what Luke told her and what friggin' her dad told her.
Told her, yeah.
She never met the guy. She didn't even meet him on the Death Star. She has no frame of reference to take his name and name her child that. She did have Jason Jacin and then Anakin, which she named after her father.
Okay. So let's do this. All right. Because I know it's getting
torches
late.
And let's get torches and march on Disney. Yeah, I'm on for it.
Rah,
I just don't want to be the one in the front. I have a cane. I walk with a cane. It'd be horrible. Okay. Shoot the guy with the cane and they'll run.
Anyway, so speculation on what's going to happen in this next episode.
Spoilers.
This is a spoiler here, because this episode's not going to go up right away, because I still got the other episode I need to finish editing from last week.
Tell them that the ship sinks.
But as you've probably watched this already, there's a possibility. Now, keep in mind we don't know, but good authority to kind of understand of what's possibly going to happen because of who was on set for certain things and at the studio for things. But Harrison Ford was at Lucas doing some stuff. So he's supposed to be in this episode. Now, so is the Falcon. That possibly means that we're going to get Chewie as well. Now, whether there's going to be other guest appearance of characters, we don't know. I'm hoping that some of the other bounty hunters, I'm hoping that Fett puts out a call to some of the other bounty hunters out there, and we might get to see some cameos from other characters that we've been waiting for. At least I have been. I just don't know how it's going to go. I felt that there should have been an 8th episode at least. This should have been a 2-parter episode, in my opinion. That way you could have had like the start of the battle and the conclusion.
Yeah, because this is going to be over so quick, and it's going to switch over and end on Mando, and I'm just going to be angry.
Yeah. So, and then we may get the choice by Grogu. If not, it's probably not going to be until later on.
There will be Fett on this Boba Fett tour, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping there's going to be more Danny Trejo in this episode too.
I want to see Danny Trejo get eaten by the Rancor. I just do. He makes the Rancor mad and he just rah and eats him.
It's machete in space, man.
But he always dies in the most graphic and great way. Choke on me. I could just hear him. Let's do that.
Yeah, that worked. I mean, yeah, and it's like I said, I don't know how much of this has been because of all the behind the scenes crap that's been going on, but I mean, like what y'all are saying right here, right? It's that kind of thing where it would have been cool to have seen him reaching out. The fact that you have obviously the Syndicate hiring another bounty hunter, right, to be on their side, it would have been interesting to see Boba send out that call. People show up, him thinking that he's making alliances, and then it turns out
some people are against him.
Against him.
Some of the other bounty hunters, yeah.
Like little things like that, right? It could have been something that would be built up in it. It doesn't seem like that's what they're going to give us. It seems like what they're going to give us is the Skittle cyborg crew, Mando, the one Wookiee, and Boba and his sidekick, and then against whatever random
Did you
people.
mention your biker gang?
Right.
Yeah,
there is no biker gang. They're all going to die so quick it's not funny.
They're all NPCs. They don't.
I'm just waiting for somebody to throw out one of those cross-hatching laser things as they go just driving through it and instantly become ice cubes.
They're all cubed. Yeah.
One can dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's
just use a giant magnet and just walk around and make them turn directions.
There you go.
Jump, jump.
It's like Magneto coming up to Wolverine and pulling out all the adamantium.
The thing I am most looking
out of a scroll. I'm sorry, that was a scroll. It wasn't even really Wolverine.
I know that was.
How do you pull something out of something that doesn't have it?
I know.
Bad story writing.
I know.
Look, the thing that I am most excited to see moving forward, y'all are talking about all the different kids and all that crap, Luke and all them. I'm looking forward to which one of their children is going to go and fuse themselves with a sandworm and become a giant worm. Devour all the others, become the God King, and wage the war, murder the billions, and bring peace to the universe for that time. That's what I'm looking for. Where's Leto? I want to see where Leto is going to show up, and then
I want to see where a teenage sand person shows up wearing Mandalorian armor and a helmet and goes, "Daddy!" And we find out him and the female sand person hooked up, in the night under the 2 moons of Tatooine.
Maybe that's it. Boba was actually Paul, and that's going to be Leto. Is that sand person's going to go on to become the God King?
Yeah,
I like that. That's the way they need to take it. Spice must flow.
Let me add some real quick. I just had this thought. What's going to happen is they're going to have this big battle. Everybody's going to show up, and then the Empire's going to throw up with Thrawn. I mean, it's Thrawn shows up.
Thrawn's going to show up.
Yeah, it's going to end with Thrawn going.
I think they're going to find that Tatooine has a giant mound of water frozen as ice just underneath the dirt, and somebody's going to accidentally leave a electric blanket on it. It's going to melt, and we're going to see Tatooine return to being a water planet.
No, Dad, it's a bunch of kids that go to a water plant and blow
There
it
are
up.
so
and then
many
they'll-
references from other movies in there. Not one of you took the bait.
What are you
I'm
talking
so
about?
ashamed.
I just told you it's going to be a bunch of kids with their glowing light ball going to a water plant that's run by the syndicate, and they're going to blow it up, and it's going to start raining on Tatooine.
Tatooine, yeah. Or
Solar
they're
babies.
going to find an alien thing where you put your hand on it like this, and it actually looks like the creatures that lived on the planet, and that these giant red heaters are going to go into the ice and melt it and return an atmosphere, beautiful atmosphere and water
to Mars.
To Mars.
There you go.
No, so yeah, Mando's going to find a recording of himself going, "Get your ass to Mars." Oh wait, Tatooine.
Tatooine.
2 weeks. That's the time period that all this fell into, is 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks. Yep. Yeah, just like the Trojan War. 10 days. 10 days. It was 10 years. 10 days. We ain't got time for years. But we're going to build the city up around them like they did, because they got really good construction workers.
Yeah,
they were from Spain.
You saw it. Those robots built that temple in a day. I mean,
yeah,
those ant guys.
And it didn't look like it was very big either. And I was like,
No.
That's going to be your academy? What, you got 2 students?
Oh yeah, then she goes, "It may look small right now, but it's going to be a huge academy."
I thought maybe that was going to be Ahsoka and Luke's love bungalow on the planet. They were going to hook up.
It actually, like the shape of it, right, being that little Pope hat mound, kind of reminded me of the end of Mortal Kombat. So I was waiting for like it to rip open and Shao Kahn appear.
Kind of come out. Mortal Kombat. Yeah.
You weak, pathetic
Oh,
fools.
what was the battle, the game, the combat game that had all the I still have it somewhere. It was all Star Wars characters.
Oh, Masters of Terra Sky.
Yeah, I still have that thing where it was Mortal Kombat, but with
What was a fighting game
Jedi,
with Star Wars characters?
Jedi characters.
Yeah. Dallas,
Right.
Any of your predictions real quick?
I think at this point they've got to out cameo the cameos. They're gonna have to do something pretty special to cap it off. So
I think they should have John Candy show up. Well, he's dead as a Force
CGI, Dad.
ghost,
Dude,
as
they
a
can do
Force
anything
ghost,
now.
as a Force ghost of Chewbacca's father, and he looks just like he did in Spaceballs.
A barf.
Return of the Barf.
There you go.
The Swartz is strong with this one.
You guys are going to have to keep up. If y'all are going to hang with the big boys, you got to be able to reference some movies in here.
All right, so just a couple of things before we end this episode. There was supposed to be Leia's. I mean, well, not Leia, but yeah, Leia. But Carrie Fisher's estate has been given the okay, or had given the okay for her likeness to be used in future Star Wars projects. And her daughter was going to be okay with doing the voice and things like that, like she's done in some of the previous cartoons and things. Well, she was supposed to show up with Han. She may still, we don't know. And then on top of that, Mara Jade was supposed to be in this episode. That got moved to Mandalorian season 3.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things that were supposed to be talked about of cameos. This is supposed to be a big moment for Star Wars.
There's supposed to be 3 episodes. There's supposed to be 9 this season.
Yeah.
And then it whittled down to 8, and now we ended up with 7, which is just, doesn't bode well.
True. Well, and the thing is some of that stuff could be moved over to the Mandalorian depending on how the story format was and things like that. I'm pretty sure it did get filmed. They just probably didn't. They probably shelved a little bit of it because of the fact that fans were upset with the first 3 episodes. So, but yeah. So I didn't even bring this up in the intro, but like my family is very Star Wars oriented. This was our series. We love Star Wars. I mean, we would watch it on holidays and everything, and we would just talk Star Wars. We'd play Star Wars games.
I used to walk into his bedroom when he was little and go, "I am not your father." He delivered milk. You need to move out. No, I'm joking. I love my son. But yes, they were both raised and steeped in Star Wars. They couldn't have escaped it if they wanted to.
Yeah, but even Dallas and Tyler and Ryan. I mean, all of us were Star Wars was the trilogy. There was no
except I got to say something. I love Star Wars, I really do, but I did not need every version of a Star Wars board game ever created that my family gave me every Christmas.
No,
I used to be, let it be something else. Oh, it's Star Wars. I'm so happy.
Here's the lightsaber remote. Oh yeah,
How-
here's the
how-
Star Wars
how-
Monopoly board game.
How many times can I play Monopoly of Star Wars and different?
Hey, you know, at
Or-
least when you play Star
Wars
Wars
Risk.
Monopoly with David, you know, blasters start showing up.
What
Blasters
now?
and lightsabers show up.
I said, y'all are triggering me right now. We don't need to be talking about Monopoly. That game is of the devil.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Crossover episode.
So, but everyone, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Tell us what you're looking forward to in the comments below. You know, and express how you feel about this next episode coming out on Wednesday. You know,
Watch
we'd
it.
love to
Please watch it.
engage with you guys,
Engage it.
and you know, talk about this because right now, Star Wars is in a dark time. You know, we're under the Empire right now. We gotta get this to you know, free it so it can be better. And you know, my son can learn about it and everything, and not be like, oh yeah, that was a series that I used to like. It was awful now, but don't worry, there's other things you can like now. Anyway, but until then, everyone, have a good one. If you like our content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Until then, have a good one. We'll see you later.